Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you're watching from. This is Maren Acosta from Unapologetically Maren, the Cornbread Chronicles. And this is season one, episode one of this new podcast. And I am so excited for the guest that we have today. He is not only the first guest, but he is a very special guest for me. This is Pete from Pete versus Anxiety. He runs his own podcast and he's in season two right now. Going to be dropping season three in March, which I got to be a part of. So I am so excited to have him as my first guest. Pete, welcome in today. And how are you on this cold Saturday?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much. I'm excited. I've been looking forward to this all week. Yes, I am Pete, host of Pete vs. Anxiety. I run a mental health podcast. We are actually in the essence of season two right now, with season three coming in March. March 4th has been the official date. I've decided we're going to drop everything. It's going to be something people don't want to miss. Trust me. This one is going to really blow people's socks off. Like, I've done some interviews, I've had some wild things said, but this one shot up to number two on the list of the wildest things ever said while recording this show.
Yeah, that sounds fun. That sounds very exciting, and I cannot wait to see it. So, like you said, you have a podcast, and it kind of centers around mental health and mental health awareness. Why that niche? What made you decide to get into podcasting, and for that to be, your voice?
Well, I've always wanted to do a podcast. I actually did one before I did Pete vs. Anxiety. I was doing one called Pete's Corner Store, where I was just having a good time with some friends, and things like that too. And then we got to men's mental health, and that's really when the question started making me wonder. It's like, well, how am I in the second most likely topic, the second most likely tier at the time to be likely to commit suicide, and why is this number so high? Like, we're at 80%. It's like, that's a kind of a scary number if you think about it, because like, how are we at 80%? This being a big issue, and then nobody's talking about it. So I decided that I would close out the season I was on with Pete's Corner Store, and I started looking at my own mental health as well, because I've been struggling, had a lot of issues, and when I started getting into therapy, I started realizing, I was like, you know what, maybe I'll change my topic. And then one day, I was just sitting there thinking about it, and I was like, you know what about Pete versus Anxiety? So the original logo to the show was actually a photo my ex-wife at the time it did for me. I had sent her this goofy photo, and I was looking at it. I was going through my photos, and all of a sudden it hit me, Pete versus anxiety. Because every day I battle my anxiety. Because there's days that I struggle so bad that people wouldn't even know.
Yeah.
During season one, especially, I was struggling during the second half, because I was doing 5 days a week, up to 2 to 3 interviews a day, and I worked third shift, so I wasn't sleeping hardly at all. So, as we all know, that doesn't help when your depression is there as well. So my anxiety feeds into my depression. It's like an infinite loop. So, but we're not talking about this stuff enough. And when we do, it seems like the response you get from people is that they just get a negative pushback, because people don't understand like how serious this stuff is, or they don't even understand a lot of this stuff. They just want to tell you you're crazy, or you'll just cheer up, or all these wonderful advices, like they know everything. And it's great to suggest it, but it doesn't work like that, unfortunately.
Unfortunately, yeah, we want to normalize mental illness and vulnerability, especially with men's mental health, like you brought up. That's just like the most taboo topic for men. And I noticed that actually, in the year 2025, it's been kind of being talked about a little bit more. You even got songs that have came out in 2025, of really just stressing men and alcoholism and depression. But it's got to break that stigma. And it starts with one person. It starts with your voice. It starts with my voice. It starts with us getting out there and asking the hard questions and just being vulnerable with people and allowing people to be vulnerable back.
Yeah, no, I agree 100%. I think that, it as men, we're always taught not to say anything. And
Yeah.
when we do, then we're looked at as weak, or you're a female, or you're all these other derogatory terms that we like
Yes.
as men like to give each other, and things like that too. And it's just, it's getting better, but it's not strong enough a message. We're still at a massive amount of suicides. In fact, 10 to 14 is now going up as the highest rate of suicide at this point. And that's crazy, because that's 10 to 14. We're not talking about adults. We're talking about small children at this point that are doing this heinous act because of whatever reason that is. It's causing it. It could be a numerous amount of things.
Yeah. Especially with these days, bullying in school. I mean, I'm not saying bullying didn't exist when I was in school in the 90s, but I mean, it wasn't what it is today with the social media.
Hmm.
And, there's been so many, the percentage rate, like you said, in suicide with children and teenagers has really skyrocketed in the last 20 years, to
Yeah.
be online bullying, cyberbullying. It's a big thing, and it really does affect these kids' mental illness. And kids don't know exactly how to bring these subjects up and talk. Do they want to
Yeah.
go to a teacher? No. Do they want to go to their school counselor, their parents? Usually not. But, find someone, we want to just talk to our kids. So for parents that have children, aunts and uncles that have nieces and nephews, I mean, you got to talk about the hard things, so that
Yeah.
something doesn't happen in the end. So you said you suffered some personal experiences with mental health yourself. Do you feel like your podcast has kind of help you work through that? Help
In
you?
fact, it did. If you've watched from season one to where I'm now,
Mhm.
you'll see the evolution of me because I learn new things about myself as I'm going down the road, and it gets easier. And at first, I wouldn't really talk much about myself. I tap into it a little bit, but not a lot of it, because I just wasn't okay with talking about it yet. But as I kept going and people kept asking more questions about me, I was like, okay, maybe if I start giving a little more, they'll stop asking that question all the time, and
Yeah.
and I didn't really do a lot of guest spots at first. I think I did maybe like two or three. I did. I know I did one on the first day of my first live recording because I was a part of a podcasting network, which was called the Podcasters Nation. I did that with a guy named Rory, and Rory was really cool and everything like that. I had a great time with him. And then I did another one with the wrong new one of my friends I've made recently that lives in Oklahoma. She runs one called Emotionally Unavailable. Now me and her met, and it was funny because I totally forgot I even signed up for this thing, and she'll probably kill me when she finds out that's sort of what happened. But I
Uh-oh.
forgot. But I was early on in the episodes with her, and I met her, and then we had a great time after that. It was great, and then it started building momentum. So then when we hit mid-season of season one, I'm already booked all the way out to somewhere in July at this point. So the demand is there.
Yeah.
And as I'm going, I'm learning new things. I'm learning these new people. So the nice thing about all these different people I'm bringing in, I get to learn new techniques from them and try things for myself. And then I find out that later on, like right before Thanksgiving, I'm energy sensitive, which makes a lot of sense because I could never figure out what this weird sensation was. So and as it kept going, I started learning more, and I got more comfortable with talking about myself, and it was like it's very therapeutic because it's like you're
Yes.
having a therapy session for an hour every time you talk to most of these people about anything. So I mean,
Absolutely.
it got better. I mean, it was kind of like that, but it was like at the same time, you're providing a space for the people to come in and things like that too. So but yeah, it was a great time though.
Yeah. And you're providing them the space to get their stories out, and for them to be vulnerable and for them to talk, but it does help affect yourself as well. How can I ask you to be vulnerable and spill your story and talk about mental health if I'm not willing to do the
Exactly.
same thing in return? So I think that's great that you've been able to evolve, and it's really kind of been, like you said, therapeutic. It's like a therapy session every week, talking,
Right. It is
talking
really
about
was.
things. Absolutely. So, let's see. What about anything you can drop about season three without giving it away too much? What's coming for us? What's on the road?
I'm telling you right now that you don't want to miss the opener. I can't say this enough. Let me tell you, dude.
Yes.
There's a statement that gets made that you just it's gonna blow your mind. Trust me. I've rendered speechless for the first time ever recording this show. Like I literally didn't have much to say after the statement was made, and I was just like, wow. Wow, wow! It's gonna be good. It's gonna be good. There's some other things I've got lined up. I have a three-time returning guest. I already recorded this past week. Melissa Kim Corder's been on, and I have I've got a list of people. There's an Olympic bobsledder coming down the line. Two-time Emmy winner hasn't confirmed yet, but is talking about being on the show. And then there was it the National Geographic ex White House photographer who's using photography to help his ADHD. Things like that are coming down the line. There's a lot more. I get emails every single day from people that want to be on the show. So there's a lot of interesting conversations to go. I may even have enough people to get past season three to go into four. So
Wow.
so we'll see.
Way to go. And speaking of Melissa, I actually got an email today from her assistant, and she said, let's do it. So we are going to have her on my show as well. We're in the
Oh yeah,
process
you're
of
gonna love
planning
her.
out
She's
when
great.
she's going to record. But I guess I got to do a little bit more research on shadow work and stuff because I don't know much about it. But I'm excited
Oh
to
well,
learn.
Don't
Excited
worry.
to learn.
Melissa's a great person to talk to because she breaks it down for you to understand. Like Melissa makes it
Yeah.
so easy to have a conversation with. And I remember she was one of my second guests ever on the show,
Oh
and she had
wow.
made a second appearance in season one when I was recording the live video once. We and her talked about narcissism, and then this past time we talked about her new book that she had just come out in December with. So and then she's already planning a fourth appearance to come back again because she has another book she's in the process of working on. So, but you'll love her.
Awesome.
Trust me, she's awesome.
Her assistant was really cool and she seems nice so far. So I'm very, very excited. And
Oh
that's
yeah,
one
her
thing
assistant's
that's so
great.
great about this community is the networking. I mean, I heard about you, through networking with people and then doing my research on you. And first of all, I've heard nothing negative. Everyone has said so much amazing stuff about you that has known you or that I've spoken to that's worked with you. Your name, even when you Google you, even on there, you have a really good reputation and it's so exciting. I keep saying you're my mentor now for podcast. You're my mentor.
Yeah,
And
I worked hard on that because I
yeah,
understood when I got into the space, you had to be authentic, and the way people see you is a very big thing. But when I did this show originally, that was the big message that was promoted to me is that you have to be really authentic when you're doing this because you don't want people to get offended. So I take a lot of time when I'm thinking about what I'm going to do next for some of these things, and it took a lot of time to do it, but I enjoyed everybody I had on the show. Like I got a lot of people that know me. I even got told by a friend of mine who has a show that she just hit 100,000 followers on YouTube. Shout out to Jasmine, by the way. She told me that my name appears more than hers, and she has a bigger following than I did at the time this conversation was happening. And I was laughing. I'm like, I don't know, I'm just better at marketing than you,
and that's
So
right. That might be the case because I was like, oh, he must have like 1 million followers on his TikTok. And I was like, I have more followers than he does. And man, he is popular as heck. It's that word of mouth too, man. Because, and what's good about the networking part as well, even when we're sharing, guests within the same film, we're going to be able to pull something out of them differently. So
mm-hmm.
even though, maybe Melissa's been on your show, now she's going to be on my show, or we're going to be on her show. It's the interactions between different people. You're going to pull out different stories and different things. So you're not going to get tired of seeing some of the same faces because you're going to get to hear different stories and get different
Yeah.
audiences. Because I also stole somebody from you again yesterday. Joy
Who's you
told
still with?
me that you asked her to be on your show, and I was like, I was
Yep.
going to ask you to do my
Yeah.
show. She's like, I would love to do both. I was like, because
Yeah.
she was my introduction to TikTok when I first got on and said, I'm going live. I'm going to do this. I want to put my voice out there. Because even on TikTok, I'm all about mental health. I don't do the engagement room thing. It's like when we get in there, we talk about mental health advocacy or an addiction and recovery or
Mm-hmm.
how to not have work burnout and stress. I mean, different things like that. She was the very first engagement room I had ever went into to try to build following and hit my first 1,000 in her room in like 2 weeks and stayed in her room all this time since June. So we've had when she brought your name up to me, I was like, I'm very flattered that you thought of me and my niche and that it would mesh well with his. So it's really
Yeah,
good
yeah.
to, to,
Joy's
to
been a
network.
massive supporter of mine. Every time I go in there, she's just so excited to see me. She talks about me all the
Yes.
time. There's a lot of people's room I go into there like that. They know who I am and they'll start talking about it and everything else. And that's really what it comes down to is the word of mouth. It's like I'm not even in there, and people are still
No, you
coming out
weren't
to
in
me and
there
say,
when
"Oh,
I,
Joy
yeah.
said." Yeah, you know what I mean? Like Joy's constantly talking about me. Anybody that falls in that category, she's like, yeah, I know somebody that you can talk to. So I did invite her to come on the show. She was like, I didn't know if I could talk with Denise. I'm like, no. The angle I'm going with though is I'm going to talk about different people that are on TikTok that, just give a positive message because you don't realize that how much that positivity means to people because you don't know
Yes.
if you just saved their life by making their day right there because that positive interaction could have been the one thing that stopped them from saying goodbye to the world, and that's what I want to highlight with her is because the fact that she's always energetic when you go in there, she's always very polite, always very positive, high energy, things like that too. And I want her to understand that you may not completely understand the subject, but little do you know you could be saving somebody's life and not even realizing it at that point.
Yeah.
Because that's why I always close up the show the same way with that whole statement like that is because it's like that one positive interaction could be the positive change someone needs for some reason,
Right.
or that positive reinforcement that someone acknowledges them. Because a lot of times when people think of suicide, they're thinking that they're a burden, nobody notices them, all these other things that play factor to that point. So you don't know what positive influence you're having on somebody by just being you.
Yeah, absolutely. And I feel the same way with Joy. And what's funny is what I want to bring her on to go with is actually something slightly different. See, so it's different. It's going to be different viewpoints. I love her positivity, but knowing her, pretty well, I know where she gets that positivity from, and that's her faith. And so I don't have anybody else that is going to be talking about anything faith based. So she's going to go that route and talk
I've got
about,
some faith.
yeah,
I've got a
she
faith
was,
based one for you. I don't know if you've seen the Healy Ired interview with her. She runs a faith based podcast that's mental health related as well. So I'll have to get you in contact with her too.
yeah,
But she was
absolutely.
great too. Healy was great though, because like when she talked to you, you didn't feel like you were getting like somebody forcing anything on you.
Preaching,
Healy
yeah.
was just telling you, okay, these are my values. This is how I talk about these things, and the way she presents it is palatable, that it doesn't like scare people away instantly. And that's what I liked about her too. It's
Me
just the
too.
way she presented it to people. Because like if you start force feeding it to people, it doesn't work out like that too well. It's
No,
just. It doesn't end well. You know what I mean? You can't force people to do something they don't want, but if you present it in a way that's understandable to them, like she's chosen to do, it's just like it makes more sense though, because she was awesome though too. I loved her. She was great. I enjoyed having her on. I'm not super religious, but like I enjoyed what she was talking about, because
right.
the way she presents it made more sense.
Well, I grew up super Catholic. Still Catholic. Got married in the Catholic Church, but I'm not super religious. Very spiritual, I guess you could say. More spiritual than religious. And I enjoy dabbling in the different fields of spirituality and energy. And I've
Mm-hmm.
looked up Wiccan things, and plus I'm Catholicism and just all of it. Just like I always say, I'm a big weird spiritual bundle. Like when I was
Yeah,
even a
yeah.
teenager, I said, I'm a Wiccan Catholic. They're like, there's no such
It's
thing
funny
here.
you say spiritual though, because there's a woman I interviewed named Sherry Ann Boyle. Me and Sherry Ann were talking, and she said that when she wrote her books, there's an entity called Spirit she tapped into to write these books, and she's got 12 published books. Mind you, she has no background in journalism, no writing background,
Oh
nothing.
wow.
This is a housewife that started as, this is her story though. She's a housewife who something tapped into her to help her write these books. So in the middle of our interview, 30 minutes in or so, she's like, "Hey, I want to read something to you." I don't know what happened in that moment, but something touched me or something, because nothing around me mattered. Like everything around me was completely silent. I could only hear the only thing she's saying to me. There could be a bomb going off close to me, and I couldn't hear that because I'm only focused on whatever she's saying and
Right.
whatever this feeling is that's just washing over you. And it wasn't a bad feeling. It was just like this sensation of like something's touching me at some point. So I'm like, I
Mhm.
get the spirituality thing. It was interesting though, because she just started smiling afterwards, because I started telling her about what was going on, as if she already knew what was
Yeah,
going
she
on.
already felt it too. Yeah, that's awesome. Gonna have to maybe just hook up with her too. Stealing everybody from you, Pete. Just
That's
stealing
fine. Go
everybody
ahead.
from
You'd be surprised how many times my name pops up. I think my first one ever popped up was actually Melissa Hepner, which is the host of Emotion Unavailable, and another girl named Justine Rhodes who I had on the show. She was host of Mentally a Badass. They said, "Hey, do you know Pete versus Anxiety?" Like 10 minutes to the end of the minute thing, said the last 5 minutes of the episode. "Hey, do you know Pete versus Anxiety by chance?" And then Melissa, "Oh my God, I know Pete." Da 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 da. It's like
you.
I'm like they're talking about me, and I didn't know this interview happened in November, and like I was started listening to Justine's show before I had her, and I started listening to some of the episodes. I didn't realize the two of them had interacted before I knew both of them. Well, I knew her, but then I had Justine on the show, and
Yeah.
me and her had a great conversation about everything too. And Justine is like, she's been around for a bit doing this stuff for a little while though, and I think she's still doing the show. I know she had to take a break for her own mental health reasons and things like that as well. But the two of them were mentioning my name, and I was just shocked, because I'm like, I'm on somebody else's podcast and they're mentioning my name and it's not me. I'm
Right.
like, what the hell's going on? It was so real, because it's like you hearing your name being mentioned. You're like, what the hell's going on here? People are talking about it. So that
Right.
means that people are watching what I'm doing,
Yeah. It's
and then
humbling.
the emails you're getting too is just like, these people are like, hey, listen, Pete, listen to this episode with so and so. It's like, Huh? Like, I deal with imposter syndrome a lot of times, because it's like it's hard to believe how successful the show was so fast because this thing took off like a bottle rocket, man. It just shot off because it was like there's such a high demand of people that want to be on the
Yes.
show. And that was just two people every Monday I was doing. I wasn't doing any other day but Mondays, and that's all I had booked out all the way up to July. So when the beginning of the year was, I started opening my schedule a little more, and that's when I decided it would be a great idea to go 5 days a week. Well, that was not the brightest crayon to do.
A little daunting there. But
Well, I
yeah,
think in March alone, I did like 32 interviews alone.
30 days in March and 32 interviews. You're the
Yeah,
goat, Pete.
they
You're the
were they were
goat.
really asking me. They're like, "Hey, when do you sleep?" Never, and it wasn't
Never.
good either. Like I was in such bad
But
shape
that
mentally. I was.
doesn't help your mental health.
Oh
Self
no,
care,
no,
sleep.
no! I struggled bad. I struggled really bad. Like most people didn't know, I was swallowed. There was a room I recorded in. I literally stayed in that room the rest of the day. Turned the light off, and it was the darkest room in my house because that's how deep in depression I was. But when I hit record, you'd never have a single idea what I was dealing with because I didn't tell a lot of people because everybody's first reaction is like, "Oh, I'm so sorry." This I don't want to hear all that.
Yeah.
I know some people do, but I personally don't want to hear all that. I'm like, I already feel depressed. I don't need you to help me feel fucking worse. Like you're feeling
Right,
sad for
right,
me.
right. I don't
And
need you
that
to
that
feel
comes in
sorry
with
for
me.
me. Help lift
Yeah,
me up, yes, but don't feel sorry for me.
exactly.
You
Yeah,
know,
but or
you
understand
can
that
have
sometimes
empathy
just
for me, but not sympathy.
exactly or be present. Just be
Yes,
present
just be
there
present.
and just
Active
hang out with
listening is
me.
all I want. Yeah. You just need
Yeah,
to be
that's one
active
thing.
listening sometimes.
But that's funny you say that because the last guest I recorded for season three, I found her randomly. I don't remember how we even met up, but we were interviewing, and that was the message of our whole conversations. Listen, like you think that would be the easiest thing for you to do is listen, but no, it's not. Apparently not because that's what we kept cycling back to. We kept saying listen. Listen, they just kept coming back to listen the whole
Yeah.
conversation because we were laughing about that. I was like, so we keep coming back to the same word, listen. I think people don't understand that just listening is a great tool too because a lot of people, when they want to talk to you about things, they just want you to shut up and listen and
Yeah.
they don't want you to say anything else. You know what I'm saying? And a lot of people are just like, okay, well then actively listen, not just sit there and actively listen. Don't give any responses. They don't want your
Right.
help. They just want you to listen to how fucked up some of these ideas are and be okay with that. And it sucks because sometimes the conversations are not very, forgiving of your time. It's like, oh, well, this may be a bad time, but let me tell you how I'm feeling. You need to be ready to listen. Don't be that person that says, hey, call me. And then when I call you, you just brush me off to the side because you trust me, you ain't getting a call the next time.
Right. Right. And the one of the reasons we need someone to be an active listener is that talking it out as I'm talking with you, I am healing myself. I'm actually figuring out my own issue without you giving me any
Hmm.
advice. By the time we get finished with the conversation, it's like, you know what? I feel better now. Or you know what? Now I know what I need to do next. You didn't have to tell me what to do. And I
Hmm.
really hate when I say, or when they tell you, like, girl, I totally understand you. Let me tell you what happened to me when that. I don't need you to compare your story to my story. This isn't
My,
about you right now. We can talk
it's
about
funny
your
you
story
say that
later.
though. It's actually funny, Marion, you bring that up because that's funny. One of my favorite quotes of all time is from Jim Ross, the guy that was the big wrestling announcer. Because when he lost his wife, his exact statement was this: he said, "I don't give a fuck about your problems. Don't come up to me and tell me your issues. My wife just died." Is literally what he made the statement of because he was like, people are asking him how he was doing grieving wise. He goes, "Well, I'm gonna be honest with you. Don't come up to me and tell me about your fucking problems when I have my own problems. My wife just died. Your issues don't mean shit to me." And I was like. That's so real though,
Yeah,
because grief is another topic that's really tough because there's no timeline on it, and it's like
there's not.
it's really touch and go. Like, what do you say to people? Melissa, in fact, she lost her. Melissa Hebner lost her son to an OD, and when it happened, I didn't even know what to say, and I'm a man of many words. Like, I'm never rendered speechless. When it came to her, I was just like, I don't even know what to say. Like I wanted to say something in so many different ways, and I was just like, "Fuck!" I deleted the message like 40 times, and I just said, "Hey, listen, love you. I hope you're doing okay. If you need anything, just let me know." And that's really all you had to say,
That's all
you
you
know.
have
And
to
I,
say.
and she said, "Thank you for reaching out and all that kind of stuff." And then 9 days later, she recorded an episode talking about it, and I was like, "Ooh!" I got through it, but it was a rough episode because she was telling us like in the beginning of it, she called 911, and 911 gave her a fucking prompt. I'm like, wait a minute. wait, you're calling the emergency line and it gives you a fucking prompt? I'm like, huh? It's like she's freaking out because she found her son's body in the house. He was dead in his room. She found him. I was like, what?
Mm.
Huh? I was mad. I had to pause the recording. I was so irritated too. I was so mad, just like cussing up a storm. I was like, what? This makes no sense. Like, what the
Yeah.
hell is going on?
And sometimes when you're in person, you don't even have to say anything. Let's say you're at the funeral for her son
Mm-hmm.
and you don't know what to say. Just go and put your hand, that's when you start using, nonverbal communication. Just
Mm-hmm.
put your hand on her shoulder, her hand on her hand, and just, I'm here if you need me. That's all that
Yeah,
needs to be
exactly.
said. And give them a hug, or, how it depends on how close you are. Sometimes they just need to know, hey, eye contact, I'm here. Touch their hand. And
Yeah.
that means more than you giving them a 30-minute conversation about how it's all going to be okay. And then, because the person before you probably did that too. And now 5 more people after you are coming to tell her how she's going to be okay. And yeah, maybe she will be, and hopefully she will be, but it might not be tomorrow, next week, next month, or next year. Everybody heals different. Like you said, there's no timeline on trauma and grief. And
Yeah. No, I agree.
it's all right. So if you had a dream guest, Pete, a dream
Oh,
guest,
here we go.
anyone that you could have on your show, who would it be?
Oh, you know what? I've thought of this too. I've actually I had a top five for the first season. Season two, I ended up having two of them on, which was
Awesome.
Dr. Jen Bellinger and Paul. Fuck, what is Paul's last name? Paul runs a podcast called "Come On Man." I've been following this guy since he was on TikTok, and he started doing this. He's like a men's coach, but he's not one of those type where he blames all the women. He blames himself, blames the man. He's like, you need to be a better person. Like I like Paul's approach to things.
Yeah.
Um, God, who would my dream guest be? Shit. You know what? For a while, it was Jacoby from Papa Roach because I'm a huge music guy. I was
Uh-huh.
trying to get him. So, like, if I'd have to say that right now, honestly, like any musician I could get on, I would love any big name musician. Like, I've had tons of musicians on already, but that would be my all time guest, just because he's so big in mental health itself. And
Yeah.
we all know music is a big player and
Big
stuff
time.
like
Music.
that.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's another aspect that I want to bring on to the show too, is that the different types of therapy. It's not,
Hmm.
some people can't just go to traditional therapy. It's just not something that they're going to commit to. But there's music therapy, there's pet therapy,
Hmm.
there's art therapy. There's so many different things that you can become involved in that help build up your self-esteem and your self-love and your mental health in the long run. And that's a couple of the guests that I have planned out for the first season. I even have a massage therapist who
Yeah.
brings in mental health with that. That you're the physical, when your body is, when you're so stressed and worn out and burned out, no, depression, even anxiety, whatever, it affects you physically. I
Hmm.
mean, headaches or, body soreness, just sluggish, brain fog. And it's just, what can you do? Just little self care here and there to make yourself feel better, and to just,
Right.
once
Yeah.
you feel a little bit better, then you can start becoming more positive. But she does that through her massage. And
That's pretty cool. Yeah.
she talks about stuff like that when she's giving massage, and they know what they're going for. So they're not like, oh my God, just don't talk, lady. They know who she is and what she brings. So I want to kind of get into some of that kind of stuff too. But music therapy is a big one. I'm glad you brought that up, because that
I've
is
got
big.
I had a guy in the show. It was around December when we discussed this. The girl who was 12 years old took her life 12 hours after they recorded this song called "Weird Hearts." Joseph had reached out to me because he had seen my videos I did in September about suicide awareness, where I did had a few people on, and it was he. I was so moved by the email because he was just like, "Hey Pete, I appreciate everything you're doing. I just wanted to reach out to you and tell you about this song that we wrote and things like that about this girl named Delilah." And Delilah, unfortunately, had taken her life 12 hours later. I said, let me do you one better. How about come on the show and we'll talk about it for a bit and see, get the story behind the girl and see exactly what the situation was, and things like that. And he was using music as therapy for these kids. He was trying to show them that, the fact that you doesn't have, you fail all these times, but it doesn't matter that you're failing. It's just how music works sometimes. Like, think of all these people out there who wrote all these albums. Like, how many songs were just duds? I mean, the 90s were just one hit wonders. Like, so many different ones you could just think of, like, just random hit songs that were just there and then they were gone. That's literally all the '90s was just one hit wonders of just random people that you see, and then you look at them now, and some of them are still making music, but they're not as popular as before because
Right.
it didn't take off like some of their songs did.
Yep. And it's like, so music is great. And then I know with children, like you mentioned with children, art therapy is something that they really use a lot. I have
Hmm.
she's actually a cousin, a friend of mine and cousin, whatever. She works with a place called the Angel House, and that's where they bring in, victims, child victims of different
Yeah,
types of abuse and sexual abuse and trauma. And that's the first thing they do to get them comfortable and to get them to want to talk is, give them a piece of paper, give them some crayons and draw. And then they'll start asking, as they're talking to them and the kids are more comfortable, then it's, well, can you draw how you felt? Can you
yeah.
draw what happened? Just, and
There's a fun fact with that though. I met a woman named Nicole when she was on the show. She's actually here in Texas with us. She had told me that the reason why you want to teach your children how to identify their sexual parts is because that way, in case they were asked in a situation like that, how to describe where they were touched,
that's true.
because the cops can only talk to them 3 times. After that, they're not allowed to talk to them anymore. So she said, teaching them what their different body parts are makes sense because of the fact that if something were to happen, they could say they touched me here, they touched me there, and the children, it has to come from them. It can't be you telling them that's what
No,
happened.
no,
They have to tell them. And so when they talk to them, they have to be able to identify those things, which I didn't know that. And then she and I got into that topic we were talking about, and I thought it was very interesting because she was like, yeah, that's why teaching them their just their different parts of their body is okay because it's just they know what it's called, so they can tell you what it's called. So I thought that was very fascinating while doing the show. I've been had a guy. We were talking about sex addiction for a whole hour long, and it was interesting because it's like you people like think what it is, but it really isn't. And then there was another gentleman named Josh that came on, and he told me that he has twice the amount of women as he has men clients. And I thought that was very fascinating because it's like you always see everybody say the
hmm
men are the ones that have the
right.
addiction problem with that category, but that was shocking to know that he has that many clients that are females that are. So it was interesting to see that it's both sides of the coins. It's not just a one sided thing.
Absolutely. Absolutely. There's a lot of women addicted to sex, addicted to pornography. I mean, and sometimes it's even for different reasons. Okay, maybe, there's some men, some women that just do it for fun, but then there's actual
Yeah.
addiction, where it becomes a
Mm-hmm.
problem or you're doing it because something's rooted, where sometimes it even becomes a self-esteem issue and you're saying, okay, that's me.
Yeah.
That person, so
That's
you're,
that's the problem. That's the problem. Of the internet. Okay. Now that you get into that issue,
yes.
because if you think about it, what really is portrayed on the internet is the sexuality of most women. Like that's what they put. That's why OnlyFans is so successful. If you think about it,
Hmm.
because that's what it is. Skinny clad women or men on the internet. People idolize them and think that that's them, or they become stalkerish because that's their. You know what I mean? Like it was like what Pam Anderson was doing in the '90s. But Pam
Yes.
Anderson was doing so much more. She was doing Playboy. She was doing Baywatch. She was doing Barbed Wire. All these, and then the whole thing with Tommy Lee came out, and that
Yep.
was like the first big scandal for any of us that were growing up in the '90s that we
Oh, yeah.
remember. Now it's like every day you turn around, it's something new. There's the Diddy thing that's going on there, the thing with the
Oh, yeah.
Nickelodeon kids, all that stuff came to the surface. All these different people that were on the internet, all these different documentaries. Like I remember it was strictly that. It was Chris Hansen, and then you had America's what was it? America's Most Wanted with I can't think what
That's
his name is
funny.
now. John Walsh. John Walsh. There you go. John Walsh. Okay, because John Walsh was there, and you always saw him and things like that. And then you had like the unsolved mysteries guy
Unsolved
as well too.
mysteries.
I loved that show as a kid. That was a
I
great
did
show. And
too. I
then
still kind of watch it sometimes because it's on Netflix.
the other one, I don't know if you're watching, was it Fact or Belief, Beyond Fiction, the one with the guy from what played one of the captains in Star Trek. I can't think of what his name is though, but once you see him, you'd recognize him. But he had that show where he was talking about what's real and not real, and it was like you're always like sitting there waiting to find out what's real, and then you find out what's real, and your hair starts standing on your arm. You're like, oh
Uh-huh.
shit, okay,
It's
that's
like,
so
oh,
cool,
shit. I
right?
saw the documentary about the Nickelodeon kids.
Mm-hmm.
That one kind of threw me for a loop because there were kids that I was a little bit older, but I was still watching Nickelodeon. I was born in
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
'81, but whatever. But yeah, just to know that that was going on, it shows that I was watching, and you would just
Well,
have
because remember
no
Nickelodeon
idea.
promoted families and everything. And they were like, yeah, Mark Summers
Yes.
had all those shows he was doing, the Double Dares and things like that, were all family shows. Nick Arcade was all
Mm-hmm.
shows where people were together. You know, Legends of Hidden Temple, all those different things, and then you had the sketch comedy, the all that and all that stuff, or Friday
Yeah.
nights with Snick. You had like Are You Afraid of Dark, which scared the hell out of most people, and
Uh-huh. I love
it's
that
still pretty fucking. It's pretty disturbing
one. I
today,
love
still
it.
for people to go back and watch it. Like it still makes your head turn a little bit on that one, because the '90s they allowed us to get away with a lot more stuff. Like some of the
Yeah.
commercials were just outlandish. Now it's like you can't say two words and then somebody gets offended, and it's like,
Yes.
and then the excuse comes out, oh well, it's because they're too sensitive. I'm like, well, you have to understand that they have the internet, and the internet's giving them so much information so fast they can't process it fast enough. There's all those different sites around. There's TikTok. There's all them things like that. Everybody's on all the time. There's also the fear of missing out, and people just want to be there. And then it's the false images portrayed of all these females. So all these younger girls are thinking this is what they're supposed to look like, and then the males are getting the misunderstanding that this is what the real females should look like, and
Yeah.
it just distorts their imagery of everything it is. And then the stuff that you can post on there is just like it should be restricted to certain ages, but it's not. It's the internet.
Right.
They're gonna be like they're more worried about what's on TV, but the internet you can find the same thing. Like there's some stuff we used to look at back in the day, just the wildest things ever. That there's nowhere compared to what it is now with all the different ways to get to it.
And that's like parents are going to have to put parental controls on things like the internet and TV because otherwise, I mean, you're going to a porn site, all it says is press here if you're 21 and over.
Mm-hmm.
Click. Okay, now you're in. I mean, and
Even the
then with the
birthday thing,
law being
even the thing.
passed,
Oh, what's your birthday? You could lie
yeah,
about what your
just
birthday
make
is.
it
You don't.
up. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
kids aren't stupid. Kids are not stupid. And then, with the law passed last year in Texas trying to, ban the pornography websites, you can get around all that too. I mean,
Yeah,
nothing that.
VPNs work great for getting around things like that, firewalls and all
Yeah,
that kind of shit. Yeah, we knew ways to get around everything. There is, but the
apps.
fact at least they're trying to do something makes sense,
Right, right.
versus just letting it become a free for all, which it had been for the last couple of years and things like that too. And then and then when people start cracking down, then they're the bad guys that they have to police their own websites because things that are getting said are just completely outlandish,
Right.
and things like that. And it's just like it's really not shocking. It's the internet scares me at times. At times it's great, and other times it worries me because the image that it's giving to these kids and the message they're getting to these kids, and then the kids are getting on these porn sites or seeing these things, and they think this is actually how these things go, and it's really not. It's mostly fantasy or made up or things like that. So they have a misunderstanding of what they're actually looking at and what's going on, because they're not able to process half that stuff. And then given the bullying now has gone from just having the phone to American AOL for us, to you
Hmm.
have to be in person. So like you were talking shit to somebody in person, you get your ass whooped. That's just how it was. You guys fought it out
Yeah,
and called it a day. Now it's everyone can attack you from 20 different directions, and you don't
exactly.
know where they're coming from. And it's all the fake names and all the different usernames and all the things. It's worrying because it's like the rates are going up for suicides, and it's like we're not doing anything about it. Though, if you think about it, the number's rising. It's not going down. And it's to me, it's really disturbing. It really is. It's like I guess we are talking about it, but what are we doing about it? Because everybody mentions it. Like, see how many times people mention mental health and then watch what they say afterwards. Because my favorite thing is the Dallas Cowboys thing recently. So notice that we haven't heard anything after this young man had taken his own life because he had severe mental health issues. He lost his mom a year prior to that. Ended up going into a high speed chase with these officers, and ended up taking his own life on the side of the highway because he was
Right.
that something was wrong, but we didn't do anything to help him. He's a part of America's team.
Exactly.
Okay, the NFL, which is a superpower, has all the money, unlimited access to help this poor kid. Instead of trying to find this, I don't know what their actions were for that. I just know that he had texted the organization and told them he said goodbye to all of them and all that other stuff. But now they're not talking about it anymore.
No,
Like, okay, so what are we doing
gives them
about
bad
this, fellas? Like,
publicity. Yeah. Who cares about your bad publicity? And it's just, he got
if anything, it shouldn't
everybody
be
get
bad
say a prayer
publicity.
at the
Think about
beginning of
it.
the next game. That's all I've ever really seen and nothing after.
If anything, it humanizes a lot of these guys because a lot of these superstars, it's like everybody puts them on a platform, like Michael Jordan and all these other guys. Yeah,
Oh,
they're
yeah.
greatest all the time, but do we worry about what their thought process are? No, we don't. We don't look at what their mental health is. Hell, think about all the first responders out there. Think of everything they deal with on a daily basis. EMTs are
Yes.
probably the top list of those that commit suicide all the time because of the things they see on a rapid basis, and they're seeing it like fast. but nobody's asking them how they're doing. And these officers that have to make these split second decisions that everybody wants to sit there and ostracize every time they do something. It's like, okay, if you're in that situation, what are you going to do? Because you have a split second to make a choice. It's either you or them if it comes down to that part of it. You know what I'm saying? Like some of these
Yeah,
situations, I feel that people are ready to jump the gun, but at the same time, they're not thinking about like what these people have to go through to deal with these firemen and all these other people that have to deal with these things on a daily basis. But nobody's asking them how they're doing, you know.
right.
And if we are, we're not asking the right question because but that's why I ask people, hey, how's your mental health? Because think about it, if I ask you how you're doing, I give you a one-way exit, but I just say, hey,
Yeah,
how's your mental health? You have to think about what I just asked you. Like, wait, what do you mean? And it
yes,
starts the conversation of like, listen, I'm just wondering, are you okay? You seem like something's off, you know. It's always a good icebreaker of a conversation to ask people that, because like, you know, I don't think that's the question we're asking enough. Honestly, if you think about it, a lot of these people, you know, struggle every day and you didn't even know. And when you say the right things to them, they start opening up and telling you about all these things they're dealing with. Well, I'm having all these issues. I'm dealing with this. You know, you'd be amazed how the conversation changes with the right wording of what you say to people.
absolutely. I felt that way a lot, and I was in healthcare HR for 25 years, and so
Mm-hmm.
and I had a lot of trust with my staff. I mean, I always said I was the different kind of HR, that I was for the employee, not just the employer, the corporation.
Yeah.
And that's one thing I would always do. If I could tell someone was usually chipper and chirpy and, and all of a sudden they're not, I'm talking to them. I'm bringing them into my office. What's going on? And it's
Yeah.
either, and that's why we always tell them, I used to always tell them, I had a little saying, and it was called, you have to leave your baggage at the door, unfortunately, and you're going to have to pick it up again when you leave.
Yeah.
So, but when you come here, work has to be work, but sometimes it's just not that easy. It's hard to give your best job. It's hard
Thank
to give
you.
your best
Thank you. Someone
performance.
finally said it.
Yes.
It's easy to tell you to leave shit at the door, but when you deal with the things I'm dealing with on a daily basis, you know,
Yes.
I've been dealing with PTSD recently with my ex and things like that too. In fact, I had a situation the other night where she showed up and it was just weird. Like she's like, "Hey, I came to check in on you." Know that I've not seen this woman since we had separated a couple months back. I left. I got kicked out of where I was at with her, and she's all of a sudden here in the store looking at it physically in front of me. So I was like, she's like, I could see the look in your face change. I'm like, yeah, because I don't want to see you. She's like, well, you blocked me because I don't want to talk to you right now. Right now, I'm sorting through my own things, you know. And you know, this is the same woman that told me that, okay, well, make me the 13th reason why if you're going to kill yourself. When I told her how I was
Yeah.
feeling about it, you know, I came to her and told her, and if I told her in the moment where I was highly upset about something else, and I brought it up in the process. I said, "Well, I need to tell you something else," and you know, and it was that moment. She was like, "Well, why did you pick this moment? It's not the right time." That's the last thing you tell somebody when they're telling you something like
When's
that,
the right
because I.
time? After you passed away, from unaliving yourself?
But
Because,
but the fact is, she said to go do it, and then okay, so we
yeah,
get into this conversation. We walk outside the store, go outside and have a conversation because I don't want everybody to know my business. You know, everybody knows I'm getting divorced, but I try to keep my business to a minimum and keep it
yeah.
away from everybody else. So we're outside talking. She starts trying to give me a hug and everything, and I don't like it. Like I don't like it. I don't like the feeling of it. It's just weird to me. It's like, you know, we were getting into conversation and she asked me why I blocked her. And I told her, I said, because she told me to kill myself, essentially. And she said, well, I still stand by that. It's what she told me that night. And this was a few nights ago. She had told me that. And I was like, okay, well, then what? I'm just thinking, all right, well, that was that, okay, all right. You know, I didn't know what to say to that. And then she was like trying to hug on me and everything else. And I'm like,
Mm-mm.
nope,
It, that
nope, that
that
was.
that comment is not followed by a hug. It's followed by
You
I'm
know, see what
about
I'm
to
saying?
bitch
Like
slap
like
you.
she knew what was doing because when I talked to
Yeah.
Danny about it, which is my girlfriend, I was telling her about it. It was like, Danny, this is what happened. I called her at 3 a.m. breaking down, telling her I'm having a complete freak out session because she had said something to me and then it was just playing in my head and my anxiety took it and ran with it. And it's like just replaying that comment while I still stand by it. It's like, then what are you doing? Because then you're touching me and everything else. And then it was an innuendo to, hey, if you want to come visit me, you can. And I'm like, no, no, well,
Mm-mm.
nope, I'm good. I'm good. Nope, nope, I'm not good. And I felt bad about that too, because it's like I didn't do anything wrong, but at the same time, you know, she was very understanding when I called and told her about it. I was like, hey, listen, this is what happened. And, you know, and I was breaking down bad. Like I was freaking the hell out because I was just like, I was having a real rough moment, and it's rough. Like, people that don't experience PTSD, man, it's rough. The next day,
Yeah.
I was still feeling it. My nerves were still worked, and I was like literally trying to stay awake because I was so mentally stressed and drained about it. I literally had to drink, like, I was drinking like 3 Red Bulls, and everybody laughs about my consumption of energy drinks, but I was like, I literally needed something to stay awake because I was literally just drained. But it just messes you up so bad. It's just little things that do it to you. And as we all know with PTSD, it's just usually some of the things that there's anything can trigger it. The smells in certain situations, the fact that she's physically right there saying these things to me and then trying to touch me and hug, and it's just like no. And I just felt bad because it's like no. And then mind you, I'm not telling her any of my business that's going on because she doesn't need to know. It's none of her business what I'm doing or who I'm talking to or any of these things. It's none of that. Strictly, all we need to talk about is what we need to, our business we need to handle. That's it. Other than that, nothing else. And it was just like, it's hard though. And then people didn't know. Nobody knows that I deal with that stuff. I tell some people, I've been getting better at telling people about it, but it was just like, it's so draining, and it's just like, it affects you for so many days after, and it's just rough, and it's hard because my depression kicks in, and then my anxiety's overworking my brain, and it's just, you're getting a whole workout, and like I'm standing there, like my anxiety is so bad. How about that? I feel like I'm gonna have a panic attack. I'm freaking
Yeah.
out, and things like that too. So it's like I'm going through a range of emotions, and I'm trying to hold it together. And people are asking me, "What's wrong? Are you good?" I'm like, I don't want to tell them because they wouldn't understand.
Right. I mean, it hurts even more because even though if you're going through a divorce, and even though she said what she said, at one point in time, she was your person. So
Mm-hmm.
for your person to say something like that,
Exactly.
that's a punch in your gut and a stab in your heart and your back at the same time. I mean, I
Yeah.
can't imagine my husband saying something like that.
Right.
I just can't. But I
Yeah.
understand PTSD for sure. I know I talked about it a little bit on your episode, but I had in October 2024, I went blind while driving, and I had to take. That's why I'm not working anymore. Because I did get some correction stuff done on my eyes. I had to get these special contacts made of glass. Ouch. But every time I get in a vehicle to go, I can't drive. I have not
Yeah. That's
driven a car since October 2024. And I'm
I
a
mean, I don't
45-year-old
blame
year
you.
old woman
It's
who's
hard.
drawn every day of my life since I was 16. And I can't. I try and I can't. And I'm
Yeah.
hoping it's something I can get through
Yeah.
with therapy and talk about it. But so far, it's really somebody has to bring me to all my doctor's appointments, the grocery store. I mean, I feel like an invalid, but I just can't. I get so scared and keep reliving what it felt like to go blind driving, and I just can't. So I get
Yeah.
it. PTSD is it's a whopper.
It is. It can be. A lot of those are,
Yeah,
and I don't think people realize like how hard it is when you're dealing with things because their great advice is always cheer up or hey, relax. Yeah, well, that's awesome. Thanks for the advice. Because if I want it, I'll call you next time I need something, Doctor Phil. I appreciate it because you don't have
exactly,
any idea.
exactly. Maren, that was so long ago, and your vision should be getting better. You can do it. You're just a little scared. No, like this is trauma. Like this is I can't. I start shaking, having panic attacks, and I have to
Mm-hmm.
get out of the vehicle. Like I can't do it. And when I'm riding with someone, even I'm like this some of the times. Like if we're on like
Yeah.
the interstate, like if we're back roads, because I live in very rural country in Texas.
Yeah.
So going back and forth to the store next door, I mean, I don't care. But when we get on I-10, I start freaking out, even as the passenger. So usually I'm just like this,
Yeah.
listening to music or podcasts with my eyes closed. And I mean, I shouldn't have to do that,
She's
but
she's got she's
it
catching
is
up
what
on
it
Pete
is.
versus anxiety, guys. Don't worry. She's got a lot to listen to. We got her covered for a while. She's still got a whole season to catch up on just interesting people to scout. She's like, well, what person can I invite today to the show?
We gonna have that. We gonna have that.
But
Let's
yeah, no,
see.
I get that. And then it's funny when you talk to people that understand it, like Danny understands, because, her situation we discussed already, she understood 100% what's going on, and she was very supportive and understood and was very understanding of what was going on. And it was just the fact that, the conversation changes when somebody who goes through these things understands a lot of this stuff as well, too, because, they know how to better handle your situation.
Right.
It's not so overwhelming to them because she understands, like she understands on a deeper level than I am. She has, in fact, different ones than I do, but it makes more sense because she gets it, and it's easier. That's why I call her most of the time because like people are like, well, you can call me if you want to. I'm like, please understand if I don't call you, it's not to be disrespectful to you. It's just if it depends on what it is I'm dealing with. There's just some thoughts. Okay. Now, if it's something like that, I'm having a breakdown moment, I'm calling her because she understands exactly what's going on in the moment. So,
Right. And I'm gonna call my friends and my family when I need to reach out for something. Mainly my husband, but sometimes it's good to know people within the community that or in life that suffer the same diagnoses that you have, because
yeah.
even people who have illness or mental health issue, maybe if yours is only depression anxiety, but I have borderline personality disorder and bipolar 1, you can have compassion and empathy and relate in a
Yeah.
way, but sometimes
Yeah.
it's
I've
like
done a lot of
they
research on that
don't
stuff. Yeah.
understand. My
You
husband, like
know,
I told you, my husband had to research borderline personality
mm-hmm.
disorder because he's like, I just don't get it. I don't get why you're being like this and why you always have to question why I love you and why you're questioning everything. And
Yeah.
I, it's just me. It's what's going on in my head all the time. But with
Right.
talking to other people that have BPD, they understand physically, mentally, and emotionally. It's a lot easier sometimes, when you know someone that has your exact diagnosis of mental illness.
Yeah,
But
no, I get it, but yeah, because I did a lot of research. We were discussing with Dan about Danny's situation, and Danny's been teaching me things too. So it's been great because, she's teaching me new things and helping me understand other things like that as well. So it's very open conversation wise. We discuss everything. So like
yes,
I can talk to her about something and she can come talk to me about something, but that constant reassurance happens here and there. And I told her it's okay. I get it completely. She's like, "Oh, I'm sorry." And that too. I'm like, "You don't have to be sorry. I understand. Like you're fine. I'll reassure you every time you need me to. It's not a
you
big deal.
sound
Like I
exactly
do
like
the
my
same."
husband. He's always
I
like, you
mean,
don't
it
have to
makes
tell me
sense.
you're sorry. He said,
I
you have
mean,
nothing to
like I
be
said, I
sorry
understand.
for.
Yeah, I understand. Like I said, after like 200 plus interviews of these conversations, it just gets easier because it's like
Yeah,
I've heard a lot of things and seen a lot of things, and it's just being that little bit of compassion people need. It's real great for them because a lot of people don't get that in their own regular day lives. And that's the great thing with Pete versus Anxiety is it's a safe space when people come in. It's like you can tell me anything, and I won't say it's anything other than I'll be listening to you and be supportive of what you're saying. It's because it's the reason I invited people to come is just so they have that space to talk about these things. And then I've got all those reviews that are listed on the website. They're all actual guests that have been on the show, and those are their own words that they've written and that how they've experienced how it was. So I mean, and every time you get one, it's great because it's like you get these reviews and people see people are saying about you, and I like I said, like my greatest accomplishment was the guy from CNN. John Dukakis is I think is how you say his name. John had come on and he's got like 25 plus years journal experience. Is telling me he likes the way I'm doing my interviews and things like that. That says a lot because I have no journalism background. I'm just an
right,
average person that just that passionate about what I'm doing. And
right.
I had a message and a mission is to break the stigma about mental health. But now it's like now I'm just trying to make people feel heard at this point because it's like, yeah, we're breaking the stigma at the same time we're having these conversations, but people want a safe space to be heard and not be judged because the internet's. We've seen what happens when you put certain things out there because, God forbid, you don't see what they're saying out there because it's a savage jungle out there. The things these guys are saying is
Absolutely.
just crazy.
And you definitely have a great message, and you're definitely, very motivational. And so, for everyone listening that wants to know where to find Pete versus Anxiety's podcast or what
Oh,
social
here we
media
go.
platforms you're on, where can they find you at?
Listen. I'm gonna do it just like I would do the show, guys. I'm Pete for Anxiety. You can find me on X all the way down to TikTok. I'm on Spotify all the way down to Pandora Radio. I'm everywhere. Like I'm everywhere you could think of possibly. I'm on every major platform possible. I'm heard in about 13 different countries that I know of, maybe more. And it just keeps going every single day, and the message keeps getting stronger. My calendar is booked out to April at least. I have another side project I'm working on right now currently as well that I'm kind of getting a rough start to, but it's working and working our way through the difficulties of that, and things like that too. I'm always around. So, if you ever want to be on the show, just go to peteforanxiety.com, podcast.com, and shoot me an email. I'll get it to it eventually. I promise you I will. I get a lot of emails every day trying to sort through people's emails and all the different requests I get to be on the show. Like I try to answer everybody's emails. So it's just me right now, but eventually I'll get an assistant to help me with these kind of things.
Well, Pete, I am so glad that would be my first guest. I would have wanted no one else but you,
Thank you
my
so much. I
mentor over
appreciate it.
there. But we're both just trying to, like you said, break the stigma. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about mental health, mental illness. Um, we want to provide hope and encouragement, and if there's one thing I hope that listeners can take away today, it's that healing isn't about perfection. It's about progress, and it's about honesty with yourself and honesty with others. And no matter where you are in your journey, you're not broken and you're not alone and you are enough. Help does exist and your story matters. And if anyone tells you any different, let them. So thank you so much, Pete, for coming on. And I cannot wait for this to drop and for continuing to get some mentorship from you because I'm going to need it.
Well,
Well,
thank you
you
so
have a
much.
good
I
rest of
appreciate
your
it.
evening and stay warm and stay out of this rain.
Right, exactly.
All righty. Well, I will talk to you later. And this has been a great episode.
See you later, guys.
See you later.